Man, I'm annoyed. So I got on my bike this morning, all intents and purposes, to do a review on the Eccentric Chromo for you. Got back, realised I'd set the new GoPro 9 settings to linear, it wasn't on super boost, and the footage just looked like absolute garbage. So I do apologise, you're not going to get that footage. I am going to give you some footage. So I'm going to have a walk around, I'm going to discuss this bike, the Eccentric Chromo, and I'm going to put some other footage of some gnarlier trails that I've ridden on this bike. Here we go then, guys. Okay, so I'm going to be doing the review on the Eccentric Chromo. Now, the story behind this bike was I've always been a hardtail rider, and I've always loved the feeling of a hardtail. I prefer it to a full sus. Everybody that watches the channel knows this. Now, I had a Cromag, which was the Cromag root down, and it was a 2016 Cromag root down. So it had a 67-degree head angle, it was a 29 wheel, and I loved it. I rode that bike more than I ever rode any full sus ever. Always regretted getting rid of it. But if you know me, you know I've got itchy feet and I have to have a new bike, say, every 6 months. Just purely for testing purposes. So I had the sonder before this bike, and the sonder was incredible, but it shook your bones a little bit, and I don't necessarily enjoy an uncomfortable ride. So I've been after a steel rig frame for ages, and I do a lot of research on bikes. I know a lot about what I want. So this is the Eccentric Chromo. It's a steel frame. It's Japanese steel, I believe, like a tange frame. Now, they used to make the old-fashioned road bikes in that kind of material. Just a bit of information for you. My cousin, who's used to be a roadie, told me about that. Now, NS have got pedigree in dirt jump bikes, so this is quite interesting because the bike itself is incredibly long. So you think it'd be a bit rubbish when it comes to doing all the dirt jumps, but this thing is fantastic in the air. I mean, I built this bike from the ground up, so I've got riser bars on there. I only ride riser bars. I love the way it makes a bike feel, so it puts you further back on your bike, so drop-offs and things like that seem to be a lot easier with a riser bar anyway. But also, because my torso is quite long, it helps with any kind of back problems that I've got, which is awesome. Now, interesting thing about this bike, it hasn't got interchangeable dropouts, but you can run 29 or 650B as it is, and you can fit up to like a 3-inch 650B tyre in there. In fact, you'd probably fit like a 3-inch 29er tyre in there, because these are plus size tyres as it is, so it's not too dissimilar from a 29er wheel anyway. You've got a lot more profile on this tyre. I wanted to set this up for winter, and I've achieved it. So the interesting thing about the NS, it's opted for external cable routing, which is brilliant, especially for the UK where everything gets muddy, everything gets rusty. So you can just swap a cable out dead easy. You haven't got to go through the frames. Every cable is external. Another bonus, external wise, is the external bottom bracket. So much easier to get that bottom bracket out, give it a clean, put it back in, re-grease it, and squeaks, gone. Brilliant. Here we have it. So this bike is very long. Actually, it's longer than my full sus by a good wheel to wheel, axle to axle, 30mm. Chain stays are quite short, which makes it really playful, especially with a smaller wheel. But obviously you can see the tread on the tyres. This is a bike that's made for winter. Hey buddy. So the detail on this frame, you can see that NS bike's embossed in to the frame there, really neat. But you can see I've got a 2.8 tyre on the back of here. You could easily fit a 3 on there. I'm not going to bother you with
with stats and geometry, apart from to say it's a 65-degree head angle, which means more to most people. But you can always look on NS website or the Chain Reaction website. The frame itself retailed for £540, but I know sometimes they do drop it at the end of the season, and I've seen these frames go for as little as £369.
Brilliant. I put a 140 fork on this. Now NS state you can have a 130 to a 150. I've gone 140, I've gone 35mm stanchions on the Suntour Rayon, plush as anything. Now it's really important that you get a good fork on your hardtail. That is the only form of suspension, obviously, other than plus size tyres, which give you a little bit more cushion, which is perfect, especially UK forests, very rooty, a lot more comfortable dropping your pressures on a hardtail. I always recommend like plus size hardtail. As you can see, really sleek, really stealth, apart from my own logo in, obviously. Well, what we've got, I've put some 200mm rotors on the front, some XT brakes, real good stopping power on this. Only need single piston with these XTs. They're just awesome brakes. They're very, very sharp. Probably not as much modulation as say SRAM guide, but your bite point is like pretty severe. But once you get used to it, it's awesome. The ride quality on this bike is incredible. I mean, that's the purpose for a steel frame, isn't it? It's for that dampening effect. So that small bump sensitivity, rocky stuff, you know, the loose stuff, you hardly feel it. It's brilliant, and it's a lot more supple than say the Cromag was. That thing was almost as harsh as an aluminium frame, but this one's a lot more supple, a lot more comfortable. That with the plus size tyres is just absolutely perfect combination. It really is so comfortable. Now I've thrown this bike down everything that I've thrown a full sus down, albeit probably not as quick, probably not as comfortable. More fun? Absolutely, 100% more fun. And I've got to say, because I ride hardtails more than I ride a full sus, I find myself taking the hardtail line on my full sus, which I get criticised for by Ben Line, but I enjoy taking those lines, picking my way through things, figuring it out on the trail as you go along. And I've got to say, this bike has saved me a hell of a lot of times. So again, because I built this bike up from scratch, I went with the shorter cranks. I went with a Z crank, so absolutely bulletproof. You've got a steel spindle in there, so rock solid, really stiff. Well, listen to that. We have a Halo Vortex for the 120 teeth of engagement. XT, bulletproof. Again, not as crisp as say a GX or a SRAM shifting system, but a little bit more spongy. But you've got your clutch on there, really bulletproof. We've got an 11 tooth, or 11 gears rather. So what we've got here, we've got 11 to 46. I never used my Eagle on full sus, never. In fact, I think I've only used it once, and that was when I was feeling quite ill back in the day when I first had it. But I've never used it, never needed it. Again, I've got an oval chainring on here as well, so I've got a 32 oval chainring, and as we were before, I was using my granny gear up clant. I'm probably like 1 or 2 down. It just feels so much more better. Dropper post, I've got a 125 drop on there. Don't need any more because the NS, the actual bar, is so low. It comes down so low here. That 125 is ample enough to get the seat out your way, and I've never hit my arse on it when that seat's been down. Also, you'd think it'd drop the bottom bracket significantly lower, going from 650 from 29. But I've never pedal struck on the pedals either. Now the Cube that I had previously, my god, if you pedalled on anything technical, you struck your pedal straight away, and it's thrown me off a couple of times actually, going over stuff that I've been on this with, swapping to the Enduro. you click your pedal and it threw me off. I've actually got a video probably about 6 months ago where that actually happened. Just so unfortunate I missed the footage earlier of the riding footage of this bike. I mean, I was going on about the ride qualities of this bike, but you'll have to take my word for it. Obviously I'm putting video footage up with this footage in the corner, if you like, so you can see what this bike is capable of. It's capable of anything that a full sus can do. Now, especially in the winter, what you're going to get is your mates on the full sus enduro bikes. They're not going to be going any faster than you are on this. They're still going to be taking it easy. You can only go so fast in the mud and the crap in the UK weather. So being on a hardtail, which is less maintenance for you and easier to repair, no pivot bearings, no rear shock to service, nothing really to go wrong on a hardtail. Just take it out in winter instead of your full sus. Or in fact, if I didn't have a full sus tomorrow for any reason and I only had this bike, I'd be 100% happy with it. This being my main bike. Absolutely love it. I'd take it anywhere. I'd take it to Bike Park Wales, I'd take it to Cody Brennan, because it could do everything. What your friends will benefit with the full sus downhills, the hardtail is gonna more than benefit uphills. And you know, these big UK trail centres like Cody Brennan, where there's a lot of uphill climbing, perfect.
So I'm going to leave it as that. I mean, obviously I'm raving about this bike. It's a beautiful bike. I used to be a Cromag fanboy, but after riding the Eccentric Cromo, it's actually took that top tier. I'd give this bike a 4.5 out of 5, definitely. The last thing I will say is I love this bike so much, and I got an attachment to this bike basically because I've built this bike from frame up. Every component I chose. There's no other better feeling than building your own bike, really. If you're interested in that, let me know. I'll give you some advice, or indeed I could actually build one for you professionally. Well, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for enjoying the bikes I ride. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. It helps the channel, and we'll see you next time.